Hello guys, and welcome to another video of my WoW adventures in the World Within Season 3. So this will be Arakara 10, played on a disciplined Voidweaver priest. These are the talents I am running currently in the season. It's a very explosive spec, I like to call it that way. It has a lot of burst healing, based on the fact that you have only 30 seconds cooldown on your Voidwalker, which is the new version of the beast that you use. So every 30 seconds you have a burst window in which you combine your abilities to deal damage, and through that damage you heal your allies. So here's the gist of it basically. This season I didn't have the 4 sets yet, so this run was a bit scuffed, you will see. But we had fun playing it. We were chasing 10s. We were chasing 10s last week in week 1, and now the idea is to go onward to 12s and above. I hope. Anyways, I will leave it this here, and I will post the link in the description for this build, which is a pretty standard build you can find in many of the websites. And let's get to it. Okay, so Arakara in our group composition is like it's not a hard dungeon per se. It has a nasty poison that lives and is like a threat in the first part of the dungeon before you kill the first boss, which is Avanoxx. We do have a druid, but disclaimer, the said druid never really played any kind of support class, so while he's here playing Boomkin, didn't really see where the damage of the dot was going from the poison, so there were barely any dispel. Priests, of course, can't dispel poisons, so this means that my spec in this particular event, in this particular set of events, was very useful to prevent some of the deaths. We did have some mishaps, but mostly players like standing in the frontal, and now you will see. So basically, the quick rundown of this first part of the dungeon is we clear. There are 3 mini bosses that we need to kill in order for the main boss to spawn, the first boss, which is Avanoxx. Oh my god, I can never really say it. So the first one has a horrifying shriek, which will make you run, like screaming away from the big spider, so you need an interrupt for that. In this pool there are also 2 of those attendees, like those also have a nasty cast, which is like a pulsating damage if it goes through that needs interrupting. You see the spikes are pretty wild in this 10 that we did. This is the frontal, and the webs will stay on the floor, and they will root you in place and stun you and do damage, so you don't want to stand on those. You shouldn't stand on the frontal like our druids just demonstrated. And for the rest, this guy, if you have the interrupts and people are paying attention to where they're standing, it's not too bad. That was the resident cast that was going off. If you don't interrupt that, you get a lot of damage on yourself. So here you see we had 2 deaths. And so this is where I kind of started clenching and be a bit worried about timing this, because I really wanted to time this. It was my key. So you see now I jump over that. Okay, this was pretty good recovery. People were taking a lot of damage, but discipline came in very good, and with like the luminous barrier talent, which is a new choice node between the barrier you would put on the ground that people would generally ignore, especially in pugs, and this one is instead a buff that you put on your party with a 3 minutes cooldown that absorbs up to 6 million damage. So that's like a good cooldown for damage, spike damage moments like that gave me time to actually cast my atonements and get my damage going with my Voidweaver and you know, the black hole from the Mind Blast and all that. So this guy, this is the second mini boss. This guy doesn't have an Orify effect. It will summon ads, small spiders that will jump on people. Usually they aggro healers first, but they can also aggro by proximity, so the tank has to be quick in taunting them. He has also a pulsating AoE damage that is pretty nasty and requires some cooldown management or people using their personals, because you see this is pretty rough. Okay, here you see I'm using my Uppies, which is like the ultimate penance. That's the 3 minutes cooldown that priest gets, which in some cases I actually use more as a defensive than as a pour through output spell, because it puts a large shield on myself and it also prevents me from ground effects. So I like to use it that way. See, our druid got obliterated again by the spooders this time. They also apply the poison, so that's why here it's very spiky. You can stun them, but the poison is not a cast, so you can't really interrupt it. You kind of have to deal with it, heal through it, and dispel when it gets to 2 or 3 stacks, because 1 stack is kind of fine if there's no other damage going on, and you know, but 2 stacks and above, it gets really bad. So here we are, still trying to kill the big spider. At this point I was begging for it to die, because you know I was like a bit nervous about the next resonant cast that it would do. This is where you actually will fight the boss. This is the big arena. We have the affix this week, which requires stun, interrupt, knock back, any kind of ability that will interrupt the cast from those little balls from completing. If you do so, you will get a crit buff, if I'm not mistaken, question mark. Oh my god, sometimes I'm very new about this game, despite the fact that I really played a lot. Anyways, here we are setting up like recuperating our cooldowns to get to the 3rd mini boss. The 3rd mini boss just spawns these like poodles on the ground, like these toxic clouds. There are these casters again, the resonating casters that need to be interrupted and dragged. Look, those green circles will stay on the ground as the poison cloud. The damage from poison cloud is actually brutal, so you don't want your DPS to stand in there, or yourself. Like, there's always the frontal, which is like a constant for all of 3 of those, and the webs. So that's what's going on here. You see the damage here comes mainly from the poison. The boss also casts poison bolt randomly on people, so an interrupt is always nice to have in this key, like in many other keys actually. That's one of those abilities that you really need to try and be on top of. So once this guy is dead, we finish off the ads and we move on to the central platform, because the first boss will get there, will spawn there, and we will fight. There we go. You can see him. There's a little RP animation of this beast coming. I'm a bit of an arachnophobic, so I kind of don't like this too much, but sure. So the mechanic on this boss is that, you know, maybe you saw that in the corner from the left there were eggs on the ground. Now the boss will go alert in shriek. Like, there you go, you can see them back there, and wake up the eggs. So spiders will hatch. If we don't kill those spiders before they reach the boss will eat them, get empowered, and really spank us. These spiders fixate one player, like you can see that one is fixated on me. They can be stunned, slowed, feared, anything really, gripped. Totem from Shaman's Earth Grab Totem works, everything works. Anyways, right after we deal with those, there's like an AoE phase in which the boss will spawn the small gossamer pools on the ground that will then enlarge. You don't want to stand where they land because it's a one-shot, and you also don't want to stand on top of the webs, of course, when they spawn, because they still do damage. So there's also a tank buster, which is like a bite, voracious bite from the boss. So the tanks need to pop a personal cooldown damage reduction for that. But our tank was mostly fine here, and really didn't need much from me. The big damage is like the alerting shriek and the gossamer onslaught, so on the party. The problem with this boss is that the eggs change location when spawning. You see, this one is very close to us. So the tank needs to move the boss, and we need to manage the space on the platform by trying to put the puddles kind of close to each other, and so that we get some space to move and manage the ads on the boss. We pop Bloodlust early in this fight, like at the start ideally, if you have it back. Probably you won't have it back if you Bloodlusted the first pull like we did. But you see, basically it's rinse and repeat and deal with the FX, which is the bad part of not running 12s yet. But hopefully this will change this week, because from 12s and on you don't have to deal with the FX anymore, and like this FX has the terrible habit to spawn in very uncomfortable positions sometimes. So for example, if it gets spawned onto the webs, then you have to find a way to deal with that, and if you don't have any ranged stuns or knockbacks, then you're kind of fried. So here we were debating if committing to the boss or killing the ads. I personally think we should have committed more to the boss. That would have prevented the death that we had from the druid again, but we managed to kill this relatively in a clean way. Everything given, so that was like the first sigh of relief that I had. Like I feel really finally started breathing again, because I think I stopped breathing for the most part of this fight. After we kill the first boss, we go through this bridge, and we will have to deal with some more trash before getting to the big bug, which is the second boss. So in this particular corridor, like a bridge and corridor, there are two types of mobs you have to pay three types of mobs you have to pay attention to. One is the big badass bug that you see at the end of that. When you pull that, it will put a 50% damage reduction on everybody else from the mobs. So you need to kill that first. That's a prior target. Then you get the casters again with the Revolting Volley ability, which is a huge AoE poison dot on all the party. Hits very hard and ticks very hard, so you really want to interrupt that. So that's the second prio. Keep that interrupted and kill it second after you kill the big Anub'zekt bug. Sadly, here the caster died first. So why do we want to kill that? Aside from the damage reduction, the big bug also does this locust swarm kind of AoE on everybody, and again this really hurts, especially on higher keys. So you kind of want to get rid of this dude as fast as you can. There are a bunch of these, so you will see us kind of rinse and repeating this. Then there are the soldiers. They don't do much. There's still some poison going on here, way less than the first half of the dungeon. They're basically mostly melee, hitting on the tank. So then we move on. There's the guards there, and then there's a patrol. In the next pool, you will see there's the third type of mob that you have to pay attention to here, which is like the bug that casts the alerting shriek. Those boys don't have any other ability. They don't attack, they don't fight. They just cast this alerting shriek that will call on other mobs, and they will always call one of those hulking Anub'zekt kind of mobs, like the big bugs. So you see, it would be very bad, very fast if that happens. Also, the big bugs have a frontal. You can see it. They point it randomly, so you can't really prevent it from selecting someone in the party. So you have to pay attention on where you stand. And then that's pretty much rinse and repeat. DPS down the big guy, keep interrupted the casters, and move on. So that's what we are doing. We had really good AoE DPS actually, because Frost DK this season is really good in that. We have a Boomkin, which is also very good at that, and the prio damage through our Arcane Mage. So our tank also does a decent amount of damage for being a tank. So, apparently Demon Hunters can do that this season. So I personally like our setup. Priest also is kind of decent. I've reached almost 2 million DPS on some pools on my meter, so which is not really the see, okay, the skull there is the sentry that we have to kill first. When that's present, that has to be dead soon, because you can't interrupt the cast aside with knockback or stuns, fears. So since we don't have that many, we kind of killed it first. See this, I got a bit scared here because the pool got bigger than what we expected, I think, or maybe what I expected, because I think the tank actually planned that, but you know, I'm just a healer, I just heal. I just have to deal with my own anxiety here. So I popped UPs and everything in my book to prevent anyone to die. So yeah, but it didn't really work because you see the mage. But we had a cast of the volley go off. That's what actually almost killed everyone. You can tell when they're about to cast it because there's like the green cloud under them. And then there's the FX again. So after this dies, we go to the last pull of this like circular corridor before getting to the actual arena boss. So these are just melee dudes that we drag above. Here there are two of those sentries, so both of those have to die. You can also not drag the caster in, because you won't cast anything unless you interrupt the channeling that it's doing, which is basically sealing the door that leads to the boss. So that's also a thing. But then again, if you don't do it here, then you will have to kill it alone, which is probably just a waste of good DPS. And if you want to drag him along, you have to keep him interrupted. So yeah, we opted for just taking it with everything else and interrupt the AoE poison. Okay, so after these little boys die, there we go, little bugs, we go down. At the end of this slope, there's another big guy with those little bugs around. We always joke about going double bug here, because the boss is also one of those big bugs. But we never do it because it's incredibly terrible if we do. Like for me and my sanity, we don't do it because we like my sanity. So this guy again has his AoE and his frontal. So compared to the other pools, this is kind of mild. It just has a lot of hit points, so you still need kind of decent DPS. You could technically drag these dudes on top of the boss. Maybe next time we'll do it, I don't know. We were kind of trying to play it a bit safe because we already had 6 stats. The timer, I feel like in this dungeon, is fairly lenient. Even if you die a bunch of times, providing that you don't completely wipe more than once, I think it's still manageable, probably even a bit more than that. This was one of the very first keys that we timed on a higher key, like 9 on week 1, when it was like at the beginning of the week, before the raid and etc., so without much loot. So this boss has a bunch of abilities. One is the frontal, like the one that you saw, and the spinning puddles on the ground that you don't want to stand on. Periodically, he will go to the middle and cast this cloud while having the locust swarm around. You don't want to be outside of the circle, because if you are outside of the circle, then you get big damage, and you don't want to have big damage. In this phase, and also throughout the fight, it will cast the insect swarm on people that will get them a dot, kind of annoying dot, and they will drop the cloud when it expires. So what you want to do is try to keep the middle relatively clear where you can. The boss will also randomly charge a person, and then immediately after cast the big frontal that he does. So if you get that on you, you see now it's gonna happen to me. You don't want to stand near a wall. You will get knocked back in the air, and then you just want to run out of that. In the same time, there we go, you will summon one of these ads, these caster ads, that will do like spinning webs on people, immobilize them in place. They also have an aggro chart, so they can also aggro the healer or a DPS. They need to be killed as fast as possible because the cast is very annoying, combined with the other abilities, because you can get, stuck in a corner in a cloud. When we do this, the tank keeps the frontal on the right side of the puddle here, and we try to bait the insect swarm as well on the right. That's because it always rotates clockwise, so they will actually go away and get into the area outside the safe zone, so that we kind of preserve the space. Same with the frontals, because the frontal can actually kill the party. So the boss is almost dead. That's rinse and repeat over and over until you kill it. Main mechanics to pay attention are like the charge and of course the casters that spawn. It will always spawn 2 casters and it will always charge. I almost killed the mage here, my bad, but I was really trying to get away from the wall, because you can get bounced into the wall and then instantly die, like you take additional damage for some reason. Here is dead, and now we are on to the next part, which is the last bit of the dungeon. That's a fairly high amount of percentage that has to be gained to actually finish this dungeon. You will see that we won't have 100% before the last boss. I don't know why that is. Blizzard probably changed the count in here. So what we're doing now is like killing this trash and take the left route, let's say, instead of going straight through the middle, because straight to the middle is another one of those pools with the big dude and 2 casters, which combined with the flying little bats that you will see, they are there now in our current pool, are very annoying, because the casters cast the venom bolt and the little bats randomly charge people, and that's painful, combined with the damage reduction and the AoE from the big dude, so we tend to avoid that, even if technically speaking I think it's less time efficient. Now you will see that we are gonna go left to pull some more of this. Another notable thing that happens with these guys is that they drop like those little dudes here. They are not as harmless as before, and they put a debuff on the tank, a healing absorb debuff basically, that prevents healing. Here our tank will actually die, and we are going to wipe in like 3, 2, 1 right now, basically, any second. See, he got stunned in a web, and the healing debuff combined with everything else, we had to actually reset this pool and go again, because we also all died. So this is not a very clean run, but it's the first 10, so it's fine. Here, miraculously, we weren't in combat anymore, even if the abilities were still going. So rinse and repeat, rebuff, and go again. We still wanted to time this, so spirit was still high, although you can see from my face I was a bit nervous at this point. Anyways, those little dudes, they do the debuff on the magic debuff on the tank that can be dispel, and they also leave a puddle on the ground when you pull them. The puddle on the ground is also a mechanic on the last boss and will root you in place and spawn an ad from you see that little brain-like ad, purple? It's like a blood, coagulated blood going around. So you don't want to stand in the puddles here, but you will need to stand in the puddles after. So don't worry about it, we will get to it. So here we go again. In this phase, you could actually pull the patrolling bats that fly around. For additional percentage. We didn't get to that, probably because they weren't in a good position to do it. I can't really tell. So here's Ultimate Penance saving the day again, preventing me from all that stuff on the ground. Another important thing to know about Ultimate Penance, you kind of want to cast it when you have atonement on everybody in the party, and while you're targeting an enemy, because you get that much more through output if you're doing it as a damage ability than as a purely healing ability, because you could also target a party member and then you deal damage to the mobs around, but it's much more efficient to do the other way. Actually, multiplicators are better. That's what the theory crafts say, and I actually find it true. So here we are finishing the last few ads before going to the last boss. The last boss is a bit of a game of Tetris. It has a few abilities to take note of. Mainly throughout the fight, from the left and right, from these stairs there, the small ads that drop the puddle will spawn. Why is that important? They don't have an aggro table and they won't attack you, but you need to kill those in order to get your puddles on the ground, because one of the abilities of the mob is a big suck that will actually suck you in the black hole that she cast under her in a bit. If you get in there on a higher key, you die. You can survive it on lower keys. Another ability is, you're seeing it right now, is the poisons. These poisons will spawn poison waves from people. You can see the direction where they're gonna travel. So you kind of want to position yourself so that you don't run the poison through your friends. You can also dispel the poisons eventually if you have a shaman, a paladin, or a druid in the party. Actually, I think the only time you want to dispel this is on yourself if you can, like if you're a druid or a paladin, so that you don't have to worry about keeping yourself alive, because the poison also has a nasty dot on it. Another problem in this fight is being in range of everybody when you're a healer. So here we're doing a decent job actually. Only the mage sometimes is out of my range, but I keep kinda to the center and just move to the side when it's time to get rooted in place. Note that you will still see that I actually everybody spawns the little blood, black blood that attacks you if you're there. You can interrupt him and get away from the rooting with any ability like fear, knockbacks, interrupts. I usually fear them. In this case, the druid was very nice and would like knock back with Typhoon. So that's rinse and repeat. You also, of course, always want to stay out of any kind of puddles that resembles web puddles. This one at least doesn't leave any sticky web on the ground. But that's also one shot if you get in there. So note that the DK can actually negate the whole mechanic of the suck from the boss with that advance. So in this fight it was very good to have DK DPSing. Same with tanks, but I think this time was really a big difference. So was the balance druid with Starfall actually taking care of the small ads without having to target them manually, because usually I have to do it on my own with my own power, shower pain or smite to get my puddles. So this was a commodity actually. We were totally locked in this fight because we really wanted to time it. We have like 2 minutes and a half to finish the dungeons, so we were fighting the clock. So this is what happens: rinse and repeat. Don't kill your friends with poison. Don't stand in the line behind someone like I did, or rather they actually combat me, but I chose not to take it because the boss was dead and there wasn't a reason to. So now the only choice that we had, since we were so short of time, is to take the pool that we didn't want to take, the one down the corridor with the 2 casters, the bats and the big bug. So our bloodlust was back, so we just blasted it as soon as we pulled everything together, and at this point it was just a matter of killing the things that we needed to kill to get the percentage, because you see you get to like 95% if you go down the left side. If you have more time, you can just go up the right side, which is a bit more forgiving because no big bug, etc. But this is kind of the reason why I think you should just go down the middle first and then eventually go up and grab whatever is left that you need, because this pool is not that bad actually to do, and I think it's a time saver. But that's just my opinion, of course. I will see in the future if we try to change it. Anyways, this is us done. We did it, guys. We timed it.
Wow, you can't point